I grew up, my mother was a devout Catholic. She went to Mass every Saturday evening. It was a Spanish Mass. And I would go with her when I was younger. I'm not sure exactly how old I was, about 9 or 10 when my mother stopped going to Mass. And she just said the church, they judge you faster than anybody else. That was my mindset after that. You know, why go to church if they're just gonna point their finger at you? And growing up in poverty, you see people doing good. You see somebody with a nice car, and jewelry, and being popular. You kind of want to be like that, at least I did. And the only way to really get like that in my neighborhood is if you sold drugs. And so that was a quick outlet for me to be able to make some money. And I started pretty early, unfortunately, selling joints in junior high. And by the time I was in the 9th grade, I was selling cocaine. Ended up catching a couple of cases. Before you know it, I was sentenced to a 20-year sentence at the age of 19. At 19, I never had a father figure around, so I pretty much was raised in the system, became a man in prison. I did 6 years. I made parole. I got out, I got me a good job, met my wife, started a family. Things were going great. And a few years down the road, you know, the struggle hit. I lost my job, my wife lost her job. You know, naturally, I went right back to selling drugs. And it's as if I didn't miss a beat. I was right back in it. And before you knew it, I got pulled over one day, and I knew it. I called my wife, said, hey, they're pulling me over. I'm not coming home. That night when I got arrested, you know, I did like my mom did. I got on my knees and I prayed. At that time, it felt like just a shot in the dark and just cry out. I knew I wasn't getting out, but you know, Lord, if you get me out, I won't do this no more. I started reading and praying, attending services. Aldersgate would come out and bring a video, and I started getting some understanding of the gospel. I committed my life to Christ. I got baptized by the Aldersgate group that would come out. They would hand out these prayer cards and put your prayer request on the card. I would pray for my lawyer, pray for my case. It seems like the more I prayed and the more I dug into the scriptures and the more I seemed more free. I had some things in my case went in my favor, but we still had to wait. Went to a evidentiary hearing. My lawyer presented the case and the state has presented their case, and it took the judge 5 months to rule. When he ruled in our favor, and the case was dismissed. There's no other reason to explain that but God. My case was dismissed. They were offering me 30 years in prison, and I was incarcerated for 3 years. The Aldersgate group came in and said, hey guys, if y'all could pray for Roberta. She needs prayer right now. I didn't know who Roberta was. Who is Roberta? Well, Roberta's one of the ones who prays over y'all's prayer requests.
So I made a vow that I would pray for these guys, because we'd get prayer requests and they'd be written on sheets of paper, that I would spend 3 hours a week praying for them. I remember lots, but there was one name that kind of stood out because he was so serious about praying for his family, kind of like knowing he had done wrong and he wanted to change. And I don't know why, but it just stuck, and his name was Fabian Madrid.
I was asked by Chaplain Perry from the Love County Detention Center if I would go with him to Aldersgate and to just give a short testimony on how the volunteers can make a big impact.
Of course, I'd never seen Fabian. They got up there and we were talking, and this one guy stepped out there and he said, my name is Fabian Madrid, and I went, that's my Fabian. After it was all over, I thought, I have to tell him that I was one person. I know there were others, but I was one person that had been praying for him.
I remember coming down from the stage, and this sweet lady said, Fabian, is that you?
And so I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, I'm Roberta Patterson. And he said, I know your name. And I said, dude, he says, yes, they told us that a woman named Roberta was praying for us. And he said, and he started crying, and so did I. And he said, you don't know what a difference that made.
And her prayers were answered. So many other people's prayers were answered. And to be able to just sit here and talk about prayers is a big thing, because I have people that I know that I pray for now that they're lost. They don't believe. And my prayers for them is that they would come to know God and have a relationship with Christ. And once they do that, their mind will be blown. They'll have a different understanding.